Hello and welcome back to the Not the Old Firm YouTube channel. Recording this just moments after Scotland's victory-ish in the Euro 2020 semi-final playoffs. It was an absolutely horrible game to watch. Scotland 0, Israel 0 after 120 minutes of play. One shot on target the full game, and it was a shot from about 35 yards out from Israel that caused absolutely zero problems after about 70 minutes. Liam Cooper hit the post for Scotland with literally the last kick of the ball inside 120 minutes, but I don't think anybody really deserved to take that one after 120 minutes, and it went to penalties to decide the game. And Scotland, to be fair to them, in that stage of the match were excellent. 5 really good penalties, good save from David Marshall as well, and it seals a match with Serbia next month in the playoff final, the closest Scotland have been to a major tournament in so long. I think the last time they were in playoff competition was 2003. So this is now one step closer to that. James, overall, I mean, I don't think there's actually much to dissect from the original 120 minutes. It wasn't great, but I mean, it's a weird one because now that
garbage.
Aye, the penalties are one day you just completely forget about the 120 minutes that went before it.
You can't forget about that 120 minutes, mate. That's going to haunt my dreams for a long time. That's up there with some of the worst football I've ever watched.
It's definitely one of the worst on the international scene I've watched.
Oh, without question, it's the worst international game I've ever seen. I mean, and you know, like I quite like my MLS, so I watch quite a fair bit of CONCACAF internationals as well. And I mean, you're talking like Caribbean countries and Central America, and Jesus Christ, they're better than that garbage I've just sat and watched.
The thing that confused me is that both teams on paper, I mean, I'm not saying I'm an Israeli football fanatic, but from the last game and the games you've played against Scotland have looked fairly decent, and Scotland on paper have a lot of good players, Premier League quality players that are usuals in the Europa League group stages and things like that. And it just never clicked at all. Nothing happened in attack, and you could praise the defences for being solid, but they didn't really have much to do all game. Probably the big one probably should mention for Israel is that chance Mehmeti had about 5 minutes before the end of extra time. If he even gets some sort of contact on that, it's in. Which for me was the moment I sort of thought, well, this could be Scotland's night. On other occasions, you know, the ball has made connection with his foot and it's gone in. It just didn't seem to happen for any team, and it was just a case of who could hold the nerve. And to be fair, I think both teams actually hit the penalties fairly well, but Scotland scored 5. Good save for David Marshall from the first one, and that was that, really. So, I mean, you can't complain with the end result, but, I mean, performance-wise, it has to improve.
The penalties were good. I mean, that's a positive, I suppose. But other than that, it was so bad. But like, what I don't get is that where midfield containing the players the Scotland midfield has, they seemed absolutely determined just to bypass them. Like it made no sense at all. Some of the players, and the majority of players on that side tonight, they all play for clubs who, if you watch them, they'll tend to get the ball down, they'll try and play football and try and play some sort of slick passing football. Never seen that tonight in the international game. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand why Steve Clarke's taken players who very much play one style of football with their club teams and does something totally different on the international scene. And especially against Israel. I mean, it's with the greatest respect to them. You look at who the majority of that Scotland team play for. It's Man U, it's Liverpool, it's Rangers, it's Celtic. Who do the Israeli players play with?
They've got 2 from Celtic, but apart from that, I agree with you. They've not got a lot of them play domestically in Israel. And it's not good. But the one player I think that was probably noticeable with is John McGinn. You've seen him trying to break forward. You've seen him trying to connect play, but he was sat in basically the halfway line. He was played way too deep. He should have played him right forward with Callum McGregor and let them actually do what they usually do in the domestic scene.
When did Callum McGregor last have a good game for Scotland?
don't know. That's the thing. That's the thing where you could say that about a lot of players. When was the last time Andy Robertson had a good 90 minutes for Scotland? When was the last time pretty much anybody in that attacking lineup had a good...
Andy Robertson's got Darren Fletcher syndrome in that when Fletcher played for Scotland, simply about the fact that he played for Man U, he was all things to all men. He was the best number 10 in football. He was the best defensive midfielder around. He was everything, and it just wasn't his game. If you watch how Fletcher played for United against how he played for Scotland, it was chalk and cheese. And I think there's a bit of that with Robertson. I think people are expecting much more for Robertson in a Scotland jersey. When if you watch how he plays for Liverpool, he's very much one part of a greater unit. Whereas in the Scotland team, I think folk expect him to be the superstar who's bombing up the wing and firing crosses and doing it all. And again, that's not his game.
I know, I'd agree with that. But I think overall, it's just they really need to improve for Serbia. Obviously, you enjoy the penalty shootout win. Scotland, to be fair, don't have a huge collection of victories in games that actually mean something. And it's weird. That's like 3 or 4 internationals now. Scotland's performance has widely been lamented, especially the Czech Republic one. And it'll be interesting to see what the general reaction is to this one overall. Probably slightly more positive just because of the end result. But they're 6 games unbeaten. And I think you're probably, if you look at the teams you've played in that, you've played Israel a few times, you've played a Czech Republic B team.
He's hearing that we're playing Israel again next month. Oh, mate.
The thing is we need to get rid. How do you stop playing Israel? It's mental. It's UEFA Nations League.
Be good.
It's UEFA Nations League.
It really helps.
The big one next month is the Serbia game. And Serbia probably weren't favoured against Norway. They were probably outsiders, but they went over there and secured a really decent result against Norway. But I don't think that's an excuse to just go, well, that's an easier tie. Serbia, will still be huge favourites for me. If you look at the depth of their squad, they've got the likes of Alexander Mitrovic up front. They've got Milinkovic Savic in midfield. They had him on the bench.
He scored twice tonight,
and he scored twice. So they've got really, really great players in their team, and that's going to be an uphill task. And if Scotland play, this is going to be a real test of this Scotland team, not only just because of the occasion, but this is the first time I would say they're playing a team. I think the past 4 or 5 games Scotland have played teams they're better than, and they've really struggled. And probably just because of the opposition they were playing, they managed to either get a draw or just grind out a result like they did tonight. This game, they're playing against an actual quality team with quality throughout the full 11, not just a handful of players.
These next 2 games, you need to just use these to build towards the Serbia game. I know that they are still competitive games and they're still Nations League fixtures, and if it hadn't been for Nations League, we wouldn't have had this playoff spot to begin with. But we can't be pissing about trying to win points for something that's going to come next year when they can't play that 3-5-2 again.
No.
With the personnel that he has at his disposal, that 3-5-2 just is not working. 3-5-2, 5-3-2, whatever you want to call it, it is not working.
It's not even necessarily in defence. It's not working. It's an attack. Going forward, there's nothing. There is absolutely nothing going forward. And it doesn't suit the Lyndon Dykes and all of McBurney, I thought, ran themselves into the ground. But they can't...
I wasn't impressed with McBurney at all. Dykes impressed me. I thought Dykes worked himself into the ground. He worked hard, and he was the one real outball for Scotland. That was really it. Kind of that long ball to him was that was as far as Scotland's creative nous went tonight. So I think they need something different. They can't. I mean, that's been the last 2 games now. They've been near as damn it carbon copies each other. If the third one is, it won't be the third, but it will be if the Serbia game's a carbon copy of these 2. It'll be Euro, it'll be World Cup 2022 we're looking at for our first qualification for a major final since France. So,
It goes without saying that qualifying for a major tournament for the first time since 1998 would be a major achievement, but I think more so just given that Serbia will be a decent opposition and actually I'm not saying it doesn't matter who we beat. I mean, I think Scotland fans at this point would take beating San Marino or Kazakhstan. Saying that Kazakhstan gave Scotland a really good game the last time.
It doesn't matter who you beat to get there. Christ, I'm trying to think of what when Scotland last got there. I'm sure the last gate it was like Latvia, Sweden. Was that Estonia in that group as well? Is that group? But I mean, Latvia were nobody. Sweden weren't really any great shakes, but they were all right. But they weren't world beaters in 1996, 97. So it doesn't matter who you beat to get there. It's as long as you get there. And if they do what they've done in the last couple of games, they're not going to get there. They won't get the escape route of penalties against Serbia. So it's not going to go that far if Scotland play like they did in normal time tonight.
No, I think that's the thing. You can get away with a bit of luck when you're the superior team. Like, I think that, because I think man for man, if you look at the squad, Scotland are better than Israel, but for some reason they've just I don't know if they're just fatigued for playing Israel or what. And the thing is that struck out for me as well, you could have ran that game, you could have played the game in September, because it was total carbon copies. Nothing changed. Something they should have been looking at. I mean, he probably did. He'd look at that game and go, right, what can we change to open them up a bit? Literally the same game, only less good attacking wise, which I didn't think was possible watching that game last month. But I mean, it's done me now. Penalty win. It's a win at the end of the day. It's better than sitting here reminiscing on what could have been and how shambolic the result is, whilst the performance was probably much to be desired. Go over the line, which is obviously the main objective. You got anything to add?
No, that's good for me.
Right, well, thank you for watching just this wee quick reaction to the game. We hope you have enjoyed. We'll bring you some reaction to the UEFA Nations League games once they're concluded middle of next week. Before that as well, we'll have an exclusive interview with Lewis Spence, and we've had a few different videos up on the channel this week already, so do check them out if you have got the time. We'll also have a review of the League Cup fixtures once they are completed over the weekend. We'll be looking back on the games Tuesday, Wednesday this week, and the games on Saturday before we'll look ahead to the Tuesday ones as well next week before Premiership action returns. So all going on, still get 2 Premiership games, 2 Cards Up League Cup games to come. So plenty to come in Scottish football and on this channel. But until next time, take it easy.